So, this is going to be my review of Star Trek Legion of Superheroes, written by Chris Roberson and artwork by Jeffrey Moy. This book is awesome. This is probably now one of my favorite crossovers ever. I really enjoyed the hell out of this book. When it was first announced, I was curious to see how they were going to make this work. Because it's the 60s Star Trek crew. It's the Kirk, Spock, and McCoy era with the Legion of Superheroes. It's actual superheroes working with non-powered members. Now, Star Trek has crossed over before, but with X-Men. It's crossed over with X-Men, and this is the first time they've crossed into the DC universe. And, of course, yes, I am going to get the Star Trek Doctor Who crossover when that comes out, but right now we're talking about this. This is DC IDW publishing, and this comes in a very good, a very beautiful-looking hardback. I mean, it's no dust jacket. It's kind of in the same hardback binding as the DC Earth 1 books, basically. So, for those who are wondering, before I go any further with the which Legion of Superheroes is it? This is the '80s lineup. This is not the relaunch DC take on the Legion of Superheroes. This is the original '80s lineup from the Paul Levitz run. I think it's Paul Levitz who did that famous run. Now, the story is that the Legion. It starts out with you see these cavemen, and this being comes up and visits one of the cavemen, and we'll get to him later. And then it moves on to what the Legion of Superheroes are doing. Which, by the way, when it says Legion of Superheroes, it's only 6 members. It's only 6 team members, which is Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad, Changeling, Shadow Lass, and Brainiac 5. The rest of the team, I don't know where they are. But they're basically traveling back in a time bubble, back to their present time period. This basically takes place after a Legion of Superheroes event called the Great Darkness Saga, where the Legion of Superheroes battled Darkseid for all of creation. Sorry for the background noise. But, excuse me. But, yeah, sorry if the mic's going to pick that up. But anyway, and the other side of it is basically they're trying to return home, but however, something happens, and the Legion is forced to make a stop anywhere, and they don't know where they stopped. Meanwhile, in the Star Trek universe, what happens is Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Chekhov, Uhura, Sulu, and yeah, it was just those. They're basically going down to San Francisco to give a speech at the Starfleet Academy, and they're also doing a little shore leave as well. And as they're being beamed down, they find themselves in a new universe. Same with the Legion of Superheroes, they find themselves on a new universe as well. And here's where the story gets cool. This story takes so much from... It cherry picks the best of both worlds, basically. I mean, you have... the main antagonist in here is this thing called the Imperial Planets, which is actually a reminiscent of the Terran Empire. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's the Terran Empire! And I like the Terran Empire episode. And it also has... There is actually so much in here, you have to be a diehard fan of the original Kirk-era Star Trek. And if you're worried about, if you haven't read a lot of the 80s Legion of Superheroes, it's fine. They kind of bring you up to speed with everything. There is so much, like I said, so much Easter eggs in here. In fact, I'm going to spoil this much. In fact, I'll probably spoil a lot in here. But basically, the team is brought into this room where they discover that basically the villain behind all this was Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage has somehow altered the timeline, and I'll explain how that happened. But basically, he said, you guys are not the first time travelers I've encountered, and he takes them into this room with all these time machines. And when I say time machines, it is from everything. He's got the TARDIS, he's got the Stargate, he's got the DeLorean from Back to the Future. Hell, he even has the hot tub time machine from the movie Hot Tub Time Machine. Yeah, and there's a lot of time travel equipment that you're like, wait, that's there? Even Bill and Ted's phone box from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I know. It's so cool. How did they get away with this? Because neither IDW or DC has those kind of licenses. Are they allowed to do that? Oh well, it was awesome. But yeah, there is a lot of cool stuff. I mean, they even managed to successfully fuse some of these Star Trek enemies and they fuse them together with the Fearsome Five, which is a huge villain for the Legion of Superheroes. Like, they have one of the Gorn with the Persuader's atomic axe. I thought that was awesome. There's also mention of the Borg. Yes, the Borg are in here. They don't really play a big part, they just cameo in one panel. They basically say that, since this is a different timeline, the Borg have been at war with the Imperial planets. They've been entering the Alpha Quadrant with their own homeworld. Their own homeworld is leading the charge. There's also the Organians, basically in debate with the controllers from the DC universe. By the way, like I said, you have to be you really have to be a fan of the Star Trek universe, especially the Kirk era, to know most of this. It's more or less, this book is for fans only. I really want to say you can jump into this book and not know who anything is. You could probably do that. You could probably do that, because they do explain a lot. But if you really want to know all the little Easter eggs they put in here, you have to be a fan. Like, you'd really have to be a big fan. It's funny, too, because there were some points where, like, I had forgotten about some of the stuff, so I'd bring this to my dad, who is the die-hard Trekkie of the family. He is the biggest Trekkie. And the funny thing is, whenever I try to show this to my dad, he'd be like, no, get that away from me. Because apparently he has to keep Star Trek sacred, no crossovers. So he wouldn't, he'd explain it, but he wouldn't touch the book. It's like poison to him. Now, he is actually okay with the Star Trek Doctor Who crossover, because he's been actually watching some episodes with me, and he said, that makes kind of sense, but I don't like it. Harumph. Yeah, I put the harumph at the end, I'm sorry. There is a lot of cool action, especially there's a cool fight sequence between the crew of the Enterprise and the Legion of Superheroes, and you'd be thinking, well, the Legion of Superheroes are going to mop the floor with them, they have superpowers. And it's actually done in a sense that the crew actually fights the Legion pretty well. They handle the Legion pretty well. They don't win, it's pretty much people lose on both sides. But all in all, I really enjoyed the hell out of this crossover, and the fact that Vandal Savage, who's, by the way, becoming more and more of a... I'm starting to really like the character of Vandal Savage as a villain, and they fuse him with another character from the Star Trek universe, Flint, who is this immortal peacemaker, but they fuse him with Vandal Savage, because, again, alternate timeline. And it's cool how they do it. They explain how it happened, and how he does it, and this is the biggest bombshell ever. This was dropped in my lap, I was like, whoa. How Vandal Savage / Flint, or I could just call him, as they say, Vandar the Stone, basically, how he managed to amass all this power and, create this new timeline. He captured Q. Yes, he captured Q from Star Trek The Next Generation. And Q was the one behind rescuing, the Star Trek crew, crew of the Enterprise and the small number of the Legion of Superheroes, because they were pretty much the last hope for fixing the timeline. And the reason why Q is there is because he was just meddling around with Vandal Savage's origin, and he kind of messed things up. But there is a lot of cool, like I said, a lot of cool stuff. They cherry pick from even some stuff from Next Generation, like I said, with Q, and it all makes sense. It's not like big techno-babble where you have to be like a rocket scientist to understand it. It's done in a way where it's just a fun science fiction adventure, and they managed to handle all. Chris Roberson managed to handle all the characters. He manages to get all the characters right, and I love it. I absolutely love this crossover. Like I said, I can't really suggest this for everyone. Sadly, I cannot suggest. Well, you could read it. Truth be told, you could read it, and but if you want to know all the if you want to know all the like little Easter eggs they put in there for both universes, then you'd be I'd really suggest it. But I'd still suggest it because they do explain both stories. Both franchises in the book. And the other thing that kind of hurts this book is, even though it's a crossover, both teams don't meet till issue 3. They don't officially meet until the end of issue 2, and officially get acquainted in issue 3. So pretty much the first 2 issues is them trying separately to figure out what happened. And they do it right. I feel like that's the only gripe, is that it's not a crossover from the get-go. It kind of just works its way. It's a good build, and I like the build. It's not like just 2 issues of them just running around talking, and then third issue, the action gets started. They do some really interesting stuff, some good build-up, and good action sequences in the first 2 issues. But when it gets to the third issue, it is just go. It is just straight-up action. I'd really suggest that, like, I know I keep repeating myself, but I have to, like, make myself clear, basically. So, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. I love the hell out of this book. If you are looking to buy it, it's kind of pricey. It's $24.99. I ordered it offline, so I got it a little more cheaper. But yeah, this book's a little expensive. They do have a really cool art gallery at the back for all the because they did a lot of alternate covers for this comic, and some of the artwork is just really beautiful to look at for some of the cover art they did in these books, and the artwork itself is very nice as well. Jeffrey Moy did artwork for Legion and Star Trek, so it makes sense why they'd put a veteran artist on here. But all in all, guys, yeah, this was just really great.